Hello everyone! Welcome to my channel, Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope all my soul family is doing well. Oh my goodness. Okay. I have pushed through to try and get this next Alex Collier's webinar 166 that he just did on September 23rd. I have transcribed that. I started doing the one before that, which was just a question and answer one, but then some people in the Telegram site said this one was really good, and that he was on fire on this one. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I should do this webinar, and then when I get a chance, hopefully over the weekend, I can do the question and answer one from the previous week. So anyways, I hope all of you are doing well. I don't know if you guys have realized, like I said on my last video, I had 2 strikes on YouTube. So I appealed, but they turned me down. So if you don't ever see me, if you are on YouTube and you don't see my channel, I still haven't decided whether I will, if they get rid of my channel completely, I might do a Cosmic Metamorphosis 2. So you might have to search for that, or I might have to do that and then just do little video links to turn you over to BitChute to do that, to watch my videos. So anyway, I had a question from a viewer in Pennsylvania about Admiralty law and how that's going to affect it. As far as I know, from what I've heard, that the Admiralty law and the maritime law, which we have in place right now, which I really, really hate, because yeah, as you know, I'm all going through this judicial crap, and I've had to go through several things with courts in the past. And it's never to your benefit. It never is. It's always to the one who has the money or the corporations. They're always benefit, like they always get the judgment over the little underdog. So anyway, from what I understand is that um, once we get this supposedly EBS, if we do, once everything comes down, the judges and the attorneys, lawyers, they will all have to step down and they will have to be retrained in common law. That is my understanding. So I feel like they just all need to be fired because honestly, at this point, I feel like they're all corrupt. Even in my little town, they are so corrupt, it's not even funny. Money talks in that field. So they're all about the money. I think all of them need to be fired, and new people need to come in. And we don't need to call them judges, and we don't need to call them attorneys or lawyers. There needs to be a new name for these people who help defend the common man. That's what I see. That's what I'm trying to manifest for our new world. Anyway, so yeah, yesterday apparently I was at work and my daughter called me and said we had the huge horned owl was back in our tree in our backyard. So I'm so excited. I hadn't seen that owl in a long time. So that owl is back in my tree. So I'll have to keep my eye out in the evenings or the afternoons. Apparently it was out there in the afternoon, which is weird. They normally don't come out till dusk. But anyway, all right. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I needed to say. Oh, I will be working full-time 40 hours a week the next 2 weeks. My boss at work is taking vacation. So, of course, he stepped my hours up too. So it's going to be really tough for me because my right foot I'm having issues with and my left hip. And so I've been in some pain. I'm making it through, but I'm not sure how working an extra day, because I normally have 3 days off a week, but that extra day is gonna it's going to really affect me physically. So hopefully the days that I'm there during the afternoon or the mornings, I can leave early. I'm only closing 2 nights a week next week, and I think I've only got one night the following week. But so that's good. But I may not be able to get a video out next week. But the following week I have Monday off, so hopefully we'll get that question and answer one done for you guys. So anyway, all right, let's get into it because it's kind of long. So this is Alex Collier's 166 webinar from September 23rd of 2022. He says, hello, everyone. First and foremost, he says, we cannot lose our sense of humor. He says that's paramount. He says, and is to always maintain a sense of humor because it's getting really interesting finally. Isn't it? It seems like every day I can't keep up. So, and he says a couple of house notes. He says Dr. Michelangelo Sala is going to have a webinar tomorrow, which was September 24th, and I haven't got a chance to see this one. He says the extraterrestrials factor and the second coming, and that's at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, September 24th. So he says, now what's interesting about the timing of this is that there's a list of things that are supposed to happen tomorrow, which was the 24th. And of course we know, and I'm just going to read this anyway, but nothing out in the public really majorly happened on the 24th. There could have been a lot of things behind the scene, of course, that we didn't get to see. But so he says there's a list of things that are supposed to happen tomorrow, and one of those is the return of Jesus. So it might happen while Michael's doing his presentation, and wouldn't that be interesting if Jesus made a special guest appearance on Michael's webinar, because he knows all and sees all. He says the other thing that's supposed to happen tomorrow is Denver is supposed to get blown up. He says we are also supposed to have the complete destruction of the economy tomorrow. Nisara Gasara is supposed to be announced tomorrow. There's supposed to be some sort of sky event. And I was just telling JP and James that NASA is considering using Project Bluebeam to project up into the sky some newly revised AI version of Julia Childs. And she's going to share cooking recipes on how to cook bugs and everything else. I don't know if this was a joke. I had never saw that, so I think this is a joke he was telling them, such as delicious marinated cricket salad and boots sole parmesan. And he laughs. And some kind of reptilian souffle. He says all kinds of things. She was the kind of person who could take anything and make it into something. He says, so we'll all just have to see if one or all or none of those things happens tomorrow. And I think that's why I stopped listening to anybody's certain dates, because like they said, it's all about events, not dates. And dates is different in our time than it is out there, as we have learned. Our time is not linear. So for us, a day is really quick. It's probably like a second in their time. So timing, the time of things, and in the fact that if that information is public and that's put out there, anytime they give a date out there, it makes people aware, and it's not going to happen most of the time. So don't listen to the dates. Just go by the events. That's why the Queen's death was so majorly important, because things are happening. And just like the rally with the black stars, last Trump rally, he had the black stars and the gold and the silver stripes. That was a major calm. So anyway, look for those things, okay? He says, but like I said again, it's important to have our sense of humor. He says, of course, there's things going on all over the world. For those of you who aren't aware, he says, Hungary is leaving the EU. He says, you have all the current nation states and countries in the process of forming their own national banks if they haven't already. And I heard years ago that there were certain states, I want to say Massachusetts was one. Yeah, years ago, before any of this happened, they were supposed to be printing their own state local money. So I don't know if that will come to fruition or not. It was interesting at the time. So yeah, he says they will, if they haven't already, he says, and the countries sticking with the Rothschild banking system because they believe the Rothschilds were going to win this, they're now scrambling to create their own national banks in order to save their countries because they realize it's all done. He says, so you know, that's what's going on. Okay, what's going on in Iran? He says, finally, these people are taking back their country. Of course, it's not over yet, but it's long overdue. In Australia, he says, it just gets more insane. And I think the lesson for you Australians is when you get your freedom back, he says, and it's a win, not an if. He says, it's a win. You arm yourself again, so no one can take your weapons again, and you can defend yourselves and your family from insanity. He says, you know, remember the first major arrest? The first arrest will shock the world. He says, what if it's King Charles? What if it's King Charles? And not Obama, although he's at the top of the list too. He says, I'm sure that Charles has got quite a bit of stuff in his closet. Says, so the COVID thing is now fading away. Says they can no longer see or sell that. They can no longer sell that. Not to mention the fact about all the crap they put in these, you know. Says that is now coming back to them in a tsunami. Says, but you know, the next thing is climate change. And if you listen to real scientists who do real studies and look at real historical geological records, it was hotter in the 1200s than it was today. And I know for a fact none of the popes were using SUVs, he says. So this is all cyclical. He says, you know, the mini ice age we're going into is cyclical. So you just have to roll your eyes at the insanity of this stuff. Don't you? I mean, there's certain things that come across in social media and things that they post and things that they do, and you're like, that's literally so insane off the top. Like it has to be a movie. It's like right in your face. It's ridiculous. Some stuff. He says, there's another person I want you to research, if you can, another inventor, and his name is Charles Baker, who was a Black American inventor, and he was in the 19th century and invented free energy, a device that would not only heat the house, but power the house as well. He was really quite remarkable, and he was in the Draftsman magazine. He says, now this information, and I'm going to give you a Telegram site, which is really, really good. It's called Secret History. It's on Telegram, and there's a lot of disclosure about our past history on many of these channels now. So just to have fun with that, he says. It's interesting how all this information is coming out now. I'm not sure it's coming out now. I think it's always kind of been there. It's just for those of us that kind of fell down the rabbit hole a long time ago, like it's always been there. It's just now coming to the surface a lot more. So, which is great. It says, there's a lot of information regarding a story that was written about a gray that survived the Roswell crash, the alien interview. And because they're bringing that stuff back up, because it generates fear. says, and I'm just going to say it flat out because there's no other way to say it. There's nothing to it. Says there's also information coming back out. It's resurfacing, and I know the bunch that's doing it about the soul traps, okay? Because they're seeing all these grids in the sky. You need to be aware of the fact that we are being protected, not enslaved. You also need to be aware that there are ships all over the sky. Yes, they are. You just need to go outside at night and look up. There are ships all over the sky that are repairing our atmosphere, and they're cloaking themselves so that the normies don't lose their shit. So you also need to be aware of, and I'm going to say something here too. And something popped into my head not too long ago. And I know people talk about the chemtrails, and you see them still once in a while, all the time, all over the skies. But do you really think the Alliance would still be allowing them to spray the skies? I don't think so. I don't get that feeling at all. I think what they're spraying is helping repair our atmosphere, okay? And I feel like a lot of us, the physical things that we're going through, like the swollen eyes, like I've never had that before in my life with allergies. Yes, I have allergies, but I've never had the swollen eyes. Like today, they're somewhat okay. But people's digestion issues, the purging of a lot of things, I seriously think if you've ever been through a detox, that's what it is. I think our bodies are actually detoxing. Okay. I don't know. It just hits me so strong that our bodies are detoxing from all the shit that's been sprayed. Okay. So I know when I was on fentanyl at one time because of my pain issues, and I had the patches and I had the suckers, and um, yeah, they get you into trouble. I got off of that. I had some kind of, they give you a certain medication to help you withdraw from that. But I basically cut cold turkey, and I spent 3 days, and that really wasn't long at all, but like I spent 3 days in bed, like detoxing from that. And your body goes through chills and cold sweats and a fever, and your temperature, your body temperature goes up and down, and you just feel like crap. And so I'm thinking, and as Alex is saying, they're helping repair the atmosphere, that I think he's right on. And I feel like our bodies are detoxing from a lot of stuff. So that's why some days you might feel really crappy and other days you feel pretty good. So I don't know if anybody else maybe gets that feeling, but he says you also need to be aware of, yes, there is a second sun. He says it comes in and out based on frequency, or we see it based on our frequency. But you also need to be aware there are sphere-sized spacecraft that are anywhere from the size of a moon to a planet that are also here, and that sometimes you're going to see that here. If you watch Gina Marie Colvin Hill on YouTube, yeah, like I said, I've talked about her many times, and she has a lot of amazing videos of the things she catches. It's crazy. He says, the point that I'm trying to make is pay attention to how you feel. He says, there's no question the frequency's rising. There's no question we're moving consciously into another realm. Yes, pay attention to how you feel. There's many of us who are extremely calm. We know all the stuff going on around us. We see it, we feel it, we understand its reasoning. We can see a bigger picture now. Again, that's all moving 3 into 4, but yet we're very calm because we understand that this change has to occur. And yeah, I was totally stressed out with all my judicial issues going on and the house issues. And you know what? I had to step back and I had to tell myself, and I talked to Creator Source and I talked to my higher self and the universe, and I said, I'm giving it to you. I can't handle it. I'm not going to deal with it. And I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm handing it to you to help me. So that's what I did. So far, knock on wood, I haven't heard anything. So if you haven't heard anything, I guess it's good news, huh? But anyway, I'm putting it in the universe's hands to help me. So he says the last gasps the global cabal, the media, is to, of course, generate fear, because you have to understand they have to feed, and they only feed off of the fear. And if you don't give them the fear, they whittle away and turn to dust. They just go away. It's like that video part I showed you of Merlin, the movie Merlin with Martin Short. And they didn't pay attention. They didn't give their attention to Queen Mab, and she disappeared. So it's the same thing. He says, so expect the next couple of weeks. He says more of this fear porn, okay? And it's going to be intense, maybe as intense as it's ever been. He says, just be mindful of that and find a place where you can observe what's going on in the world. But at the same time, you know you're not being drawn into the drama. Pay attention to how you feel. It says that's really, really important, because the calmer you are, the more grounded you are, and the more calmer and grounded the people around you are, and will be, especially your kids, your siblings, your immediate family. Just be really calm. This is absolutely going to have a happy ending, folks. It says, but we have to go through this shit. And I do feel it's coming to an end, finally. We're all responsible, he says. We were all a part of that matrix, and now that we're free of it, we see it. But there's still work to do. There's still some who will wake up in the next few weeks, and they may have a very hard time of it. But they're going to be in a place to listen. So be patient with them, be understanding. Some of us have been where they are now at one time during our awakening process. It's going to be something, he says. It really is. Yes. So he says, it is what it is, and that's why we're here. That's why many of us came back, was to be here for this time again, but to do some things differently. And the biggest difference is the fact that the white hats, the benevolents, are far more active than they were the first time in their implementation and their assistance. He says, so the more calmer we are, the more we see and continue to call forth what it is that we want, the faster this will manifest. Exactly. Okay, he says. And that's what it's about. It's about manifestation. It's always has been. He says, that's the whole point of being in a physical form, is to manifest what you want and to create it. And that's what we're doing. But we're doing it all the time. It's just that it can't be fear. It can't be lack. It can't be anger. It can't be hate. These things are self-destructive, and we know that now. Says, and there's still I say this every video, don't I? There's still, okay, that no. Where there's something that don't. Okay, they're still being triggered. And it's hard to watch it. It really is. It's very difficult. But you know, this has been the legacy of regressive extraterrestrial groups, is this type of thing, is this prevalent, lasting anguish that developing civilizations have had to go through. So one of the topics today is the infected soul groups of Alderbaron. Says, I want to add to this that, he says, let me give you some current intel before we get into that. If you remember a couple of years ago when I was out Mount Shasta before the Yabaru, he says, I talked about how Mornay had said that they had laid this trap and that they had specifically targeted, and I think it's 19 Orion Greys and reptilians specific, and they had targeted them based on their DNA, and they had all these people in certain positions and put people in third, fourth, and fifth density waiting in specific locations where they had those in sixth density had mapped specific places where the regressives had jumped to. Whenever there's trouble, he says, they run. And where they jumped to, and they had people waiting in these locations to grab them because they did something to cause these regressives to jump to these locations. So on purpose, they did something to these beings to make them jump, so they would jump to that specific location and then they would grab them and basically like take them away. Says many of them went into the past, and he says then they would come back when the coast was clear, or signal the coast was clear. He says, and I think Elena said she was told they had at least 11. They grabbed 11 up front, and it was Tony Rodriguez, when I was sharing this with him, who said that, you know, he was right on the money, is because genetically they had access to the Orion AI system, and that turned out to be exactly correct. He says, well, he says, I've talked about how the mentoring of each dimension occurs by those above it, and this is, of course, the law of consistency, where 11th will mentor 10, and 10 will mentor 9, and this assures the evolvement of everyone together, at least those who choose to evolve. It says there are soul groups in the lower dimensions that still haven't got their shit together, but there's always hope for that and promise. But nonetheless, he says, now I have permission to share this now, because this was mentioned to me by someone, and then I had to send it up the channel to find out if it was even feasible. And is it even a possibility? He says, well, it turns out not even is it a possibility, but it has already happened. They've already done it, and they're beginning to see the results as we speak. It says, using these beings that had access to the Orion AI system, something was sent back, a gift, using these different beings, each one sending something different. They sent presents back to the Orion AI system and the Queen herself. And he laughs. And he didn't really mention what it was. I'm thinking it was some kind of virus or something, maybe, you know, like in a computer system, they sent a virus back, like Independence Day, where they put the virus in the big spaceship, blew it up. Says it's only a matter of time before it's over. The Queen herself has become so reliant on the AI system that she never saw the things coming, and they're already there. Then already in her, says they're already in the AI system. It's already beginning. The word was used to deteriorate and eat itself. See, the question is what's going to be the response from Orion when they realize this whole thing has come down on top of them. And now they're exposed. He says, now I bring this up because this is relevant to Alderbaron and also Alcyone and also specific parts of Hercules and certainly areas in our galaxy as well. He says, I don't know about the Andromedan galaxy. I don't know if this particular AI has gone that far. It says, so what I'm trying to tell you is that if you can look past the fear porn, if you can look past the matrix doing everything in its power to draw your attention to it so that your frequency, your energy feeds it, if you can be mindful of it, be aware of it, observe, but not give it any emotion, we are going to see this thing wither and die in no time. And this event that I just shared with you regarding the presents that were sent back to Orion, it's going to get really interesting because these dark malevolent beings are now going to be confronted with a choice. They will no longer be controlled. It will be a choice, a decision on their part to either to become a part of the galactic community, come clean and become part of it, or continue to be assholes. It says, and the asshole part of it isn't going to be tolerated anymore. It's just not. It says there is going to be some house cleaning throughout the galaxy. This is confirmed now. It says, now, what I'm going to share with you about the groups, some groups in Alderbaron applies to virtually all of the regressive groups, but I'm picking on Alderbaron for a lot of reasons. He says, and for a lot of reasons. Some of those reasons are they're very instrumental alone with the reptilians, the draconians, and giving the Nazi Germans a lot of technology. They were also very instrumental in assisting the Nazis with intelligence and many other things that will come to light, it says, in the very near future. It says, now, if you remember back in the day, and we're talking decades ago, where I shared with you information that the A's had given me, Morinae and Visayas, the Andromedans, for you new folks, says that the regressives had a process which they could capture souls. And what they would do in order to capture a soul, they would bring someone to near death, and then what they would do is they would draw the soul into the container and capture it. Now, there are some people equating these grids they see in the sky as exactly the same thing. And I can understand your analogy and wanting to compare these two things, but that is not what it is in fact going on here today at all. He says it's not. Reincarnation on this planet is a choice, a decision made solely by the soul. He says, now in order to do a similar thing, you have an extraterrestrial that has soul, regressive or not. They choose to remain here in physicality. They would use the same process, and what they would do is they would transfer the soul at the moment of death into a clone or avatar body, and that soul would continue to live maybe hundreds of years opposed to thousands. And then they would continue to do the process. Okay, when he talks about that, I don't know, like I love X-Men movies too. Have you seen this? X-Men Apocalypse? Okay. Watch that if you haven't. The very beginning of this movie is them transferring the soul to a new body, and they're doing a spell while they're transferring the soul. Okay, so everything he talks about is shown in that movie. So he says, now this goes for human beings and also other types of life forms, but they have to have soul, you see. It says, now what happened was in Alderbaron, they became extremely dependent on this type of technology. In other words, they were not organically leaving their physical form, going into spirit, reconnecting to source, and then coming back in. What they were doing is going from one form to another. They were not at all connecting to source in any kind of an organic way. And then what happened, because they were not connecting to source, is they began to develop what we would call an ego. It says the A's refer to it as a second self. The second self lacked compassion. It lacked any type of empathy after so many transfers because they were no longer connecting organically to source. And what happened was they became extremely malevolent and they became self-absorbed. And what they continued to do was they saw themselves as a separation, completely separate even from their own people, other Aldebarans. And that just reminds me too of, I'm sure a lot of you hopefully have seen, like many years ago when Hillary, she was at a September 11th thing and like she was walking to the van and all of a sudden she like fainted and they like grabbed her. A lot of people say that was her like clone or robot or whatever. And then she went to Chelsea's apartment to rest for a while. And then she came back out like an hour later or something like that, all chipper and younger looking and all that. Like, yeah, because they just transferred her back. She probably died. They said she had Kuru, but who knows? We won't know. Hopefully, we'll know soon enough. But like, yeah. So they probably transferred her consciousness into another body, into that clone. So that's what I was thinking when he was talking about this. Um, He says, now, he says, they're not all dark. He says, that's not what I'm saying. But there is a significant group there that is very, very powerful technologically. He says that has been using this process. And what's interesting is that the technology they developed has stayed with these groups. They have not shared it with the people of Aldebaran star system. Or people at all. He says, does it sound familiar? Yes. Does it sound familiar? Because it should. Many of these beings have been here and gone in past history, and the names of some of these people will come about. And as I've shared with you 30 some years ago, many of the people we refer to as gods were in fact extraterrestrials. That's exactly right. And if you read this book, I'm not sure you can get the book anymore, but I think you can get an audio book, Our Universal Journey by George Kapaslis. He talks about that in his book. The gods you're praying to are extraterrestrial. A lot of his information and Alex's information match up, so I love it. Okay. So he says, so this technology has been in use on this planet as well. And there are families that have used this technology, and when they decided they no longer wanted to use the technology, or they were very content with who they were in their physical form, they would refer to other means. It says, in order to prolong the life of the body they were in, they would seek nourishment from other places, such as glands, such as energy, such as blood work, etc., etc., etc. Okay? It says, you know what I'm referring to. He says, okay, adren, he says, and you can finish the rest. Without that, these beings would have crossed over a long time ago. It says the reasons they would choose our physical form again goes back to the point that because we are a compendium of 22 different extraterrestrial races, our DNA, we are extremely adaptable. It says our bodies can change to virtually any time of ecosystem or atmospheric condition given the right time and attributes. And what I mean by that is minimal customizations or DNA adjustments. Our physicality can adapt, and this is why we've been so prized for such a long time. It says now, when the AI system comes down, it says when it comes down, there's going to be a galactic alliance move to clean house there. And the only reason I can share this is because it's no longer a secret. The shifting and changing of the Prime Directive in order to assist Earth and others has caused a tremendous shift and awakening in everyone. He says, in everyone, with all the races, all the dimensional realms that are participating in this. It's like everybody realizes, okay, this shift in energy has gone on as far as it's going to go. It is now time for all of us to join together and adapt. He says, now it's not to say that they weren't sharing information because everybody checks each other's work. That's how this has always been. It's just that each dimension really became relatively consumed about its own evolution. There were ambassadorial, there were gods, there were, what's the right word here? He says, there were missions into the lower dimensions to see how things were going, to take stock, to register all the changes that were going on in the lower frequencies. And I don't know if that information was being compartmentalized, but it no longer is. In other words, this change, this shift that's coming is affecting everything, everyone in our galaxy, and everyone's talking to each other again. I said that a long time ago in the beginnings of my videos that this shift coming affects not only Earth, it affects everyone in this galaxy, and God only knows how many other dimensions. So it affects everyone. That's how huge this is. Okay, we're not just fighting for humanity, we're fighting for our families from other lifetimes and in our future selves. And it's huge. It is huge. It says there is a lot more conversation, there's a lot more information in circles and in groups that were relatively quiet for a very, very long time. It says, in other words, everybody is involved now. Everyone is focused. Everyone is participating. Everyone is at least thinking about what the hell is going on in 3D. And that's why everything is beginning to shift. Even just their consciousness on 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, he said 12th. Even just their consciousness shifting and looking at what we're doing changes the frequency, even if they physically don't tend to it. Just the fact that they're looking at this frequency, looking at us, is changing the frequency. It automatically begins to step it up and rise it, even if they physically don't get involved. So yeah, if they're putting their attention on 3D, just like the movie, once you put your attention to something, it will change the frequency. Okay, he says, I have chills just talking about it. And I got chills when I was told this. No matter how dark it appears, they wanted to appear in the next several months between now and December, or probably into December. Remember to observe, because what you're watching is something that's already occurred, play itself out. I don't want to call it a show because that doesn't do it justice. I'm like, it doesn't feel like a show when you're physically in it and you're having to deal with all the shit around you, right? Like, ugh, good Lord. It really doesn't, but you are watching things that already occurred just playing itself out. Observe. Don't invest your energy in it. If you're going to use your energy, invest it in what you want. See what it is that you want. You already know this isn't what you want, so don't allow your emotions to get drawn into it, because it's theater. It isn't to those in the middle of it. It says those who've bought into the frequency. It's real to them, but at some point they're going to spin out of it. It says they're going to come out of it. They're going to come out of the tailspin they're in. And those that don't, he said, God bless them. God bless them. We can still love them from a distance. But for those of you that understand what's going on here, bless it, and whatever emotion or energy you have, focus on what you want. Focus on seeing us on the other side of this performance, for lack of a better word. Absolutely, I do every day. He says it's a done deal. He says it's a done fucking deal. He says it really is. And I probably shouldn't say it because a lot of people will just sit back and say, great, I don't have to do anything. And there will be those people that just don't do anything. He says, and you know, that's just not going to work for you. Everybody. That means you, me, everybody has to participate. This is a collective venture. It is. It's a collective consciousness venture. We're all in this together. So, okay? So that technology that was used in Alderbaron was used here. Some of the cryo technology that they found in Antarctica actually is technology. It has multiple uses when they talk about the fallen angels. When Enoch talks about the fallen angels, he is talking about Anunnaki. But it's important to note that there are also some Aldebarans in that group. Many regressive groups worked collectively with other races. They did, because each race has very specific skills. It could very well be that their body type would work in a very specific areas of the galaxy. And that would give these regressive groups, say the Orion group, access to specific minerals and things on these worlds that their physicality would not allow them to go in and get. So they would befriend like-minded groups who had the physicality where they could go in and enslave others to retrieve those particular minerals and then deliver those to Orion. A lot of this information is in the 20 and back programs if you really pay attention to what they were talking about. But this has been going on for quite some time. It's just that, as you know, thousands and thousands of years ago, they weren't using us. They were using other races. It says one of their undoings was and will turn out to be enslaving Earth, because they simply could not perceive the level of spiritual soul groups that were here that got trapped, because they weren't looking at that. They weren't looking at that. They were looking at product. They look at other groups as just product, okay? Livestock. That's their presentation. How can we use them for our benefit? And that was their position they came from. This is so much bigger than we realize. So much bigger. It says, but anyways, that's what's going on, at least there. It says, now, the excommunicating part of this is the fact that the sun and other stars in our region, other technologies that are in our solar system that are projecting frequency, a harmonizing frequency, or series of frequencies that are not only third, but fourth, fifth, And I think sometime in the next few months, there will be the introduction of some 6th density frequencies emanating from our sun. That's where it's going to come in first, is through our sun. These frequencies literally are going to push this regressive matrix holograph that they created, which is a band of frequencies. It is literally going to put shit completely out of our realm. Yay! Yay! I don't know any other way to describe it. He says, now there is movement already, but when the 6th frequency gets here, when that begins, we're going to see an exponential rise in joy, truth, peace, respect, all categorized in a benevolent overlay, harmonic, benevolent overlay, and it will move very quickly because the regressives here in this part of our galaxy in in third simply have no defense for this. And as I told you, everybody's on board now with it. They get it. They understand. Again, it appears that the information regarding each dimension was compartmentalized. And now that other races and other civilizations in these dimensions are now fully aware of what the hell has been happening down here on third, into collective races, and realizing that soul groups from these dimensions were stuck here. Everybody's on board. Yay! They have absolutely no defense against the 6th density frequencies that are going to be introduced. They've already modeled it. They already have an outcome. It's done. It says this is a done deal. Okay? But we ourselves that are here in physical form, we still have the responsibility of moving forward and building and recharting a new course for humanity on this planet and in our solar system. Okay? We are responsible for that. They're not going to do that work for us. They're going to assist. There will be mentoring, but we will be the ones making those decisions and making those choices. So, we're going to have to stretch. We're definitely all going to have to stretch because we're going to have to let go of the past. And for many of us, this is the only way we've known how to live, is in survival. But just because we're no longer in survival doesn't mean we don't continue to grow and evolve and to look forward. And I think that's going to be the trick for a lot of people, is to look forward and begin to imagine what it's going to look like for future generations, so we can begin the process of building a foundation for future generations to build on. It says, and we'll get there. Many of us know how to do this. We just don't remember currently because our third strand hasn't been turned on. But once that third strand gets turned on and we have access to the collective memory that we have of who we've been and the civilizations we've been a part of, those things will become much clearer for us. And we will be able to share those ideas with others as their third strand comes on. And they won't look at us like we're crazy. They'll be like, well, wait a minute. I remember something like that. I have memories of that. I can recall living in that kind of society in Alcyon or Hercules in Vega. I can remember living a civilization like that. And that's where we will collectively begin to put together the plan to build a foundation for a true galactic, multi-galactic society, civilization on Earth, and that will spread. Won't that be, I just got chills. Yeah, like each one of us, it comes from a different place. Like when we get that memory back of who we were and what civilizations and cultures we come from other planets, And we wake up here and we're like, oh shit, like, okay, I need to share that. Like, we need to all get involved and make Earth this true melting pot of the galaxy, right? Wow. He says, and that will spread, that will assist other evolving civilizations to want to do the same thing. He says, someone asked in the last week in the question and answer, do they see us going off world and helping other races? We have been the underdog for so long. There's just no way we wouldn't champion other underdogs. He says, so yes, that's exactly what we will do. And they will be able to relate to us because we're just fresh out. He says we're just fresh out of being the underdog, of getting our freedom. So we can totally relate on multiple levels with some of these civilizations because they're going to go through the same process. And again, they will be mentored. We will be mentoring some of them, but those advanced civilizations on 4th, 5th, and 6th, they will not be able to do the work for them. The same rules apply, but we will be able to assist because we're not only on 3rd, but we're also moving into 4th, which is a transition they will be going through as well. So it's interesting. We're just going to be a few jumps ahead of them, and we're going to be able to share with them, hey, this was what you need to look for. This is what you need to look for. These are the next steps that are coming, and we can help them get ready for that because we have just gone through those steps ourselves. And in this process, we will be able to track and find and reunite people that have been trafficked humans, Earth Terrans, who have been trafficked to other parts of the galaxy, and we will be able to free them and bring them home if they so choose. Some of them may want to stay in the civilizations that they're in because they've adapted, but then they would become our liaisons and they would help us work with those particular civilizations where they were trafficked to that are also going to be freed. Right? That's the point. It says this is really, really big, guys. This isn't just about us. Although right now it needs to be. But there will come a point when we need to jump and change our consciousness from just about us once we have secured our place to helping others, to pushing it forward, okay? And this isn't far off at all. It says this is not far off at all. As far as decades, he says it's not far off. It says protecting freedom. He says we don't all need to necessarily agree on what the exact definition of what freedom is. But what we all do have to agree on is that everybody deserves it. Everyone has an absolute right to be free. And it is in that specifically that that declared right to be free, to unconditionally be responsible for oneself without being coerced by some higher authority. It is in that will cause all of us to make the decision voluntarily that we're going to watch each other's backs going forward. Absolutely. It says, in defending each other, we will always remain free. And if this episode with the Deep State with Rothschilds, the Orion Group, if that has taught us nothing, is that as long as we defend each other and we stick together, we will always remain free. Going forward in 4th, there is contrast. It's not as extreme as 3rd, but there still is contrast. We need to be resolute going forward that if anyone sells out its own race for personal profit and power, that they are to be confronted and whatever measures are appropriate be implemented. And I'm going to use this line. It's from a Star Trek movie. The needs of the many always outweigh the needs of the few. I never could have said that better than what was in that movie. And we have to remember that. And it needs to become a mantra. It says we have to stick together. If we can protect each other, if we can all work together, there is absolutely nothing that can't be accomplished. Nothing. There's nothing in the way except ourselves. And if we all protect each other, we won't let each other get in the way. We will mentor. We will pat each other on the back. We will encourage each other to move forward, to seek higher ground all the time for the benefit of everyone. So that millennia from now, when they talk about Earth, when they talk about the Terrans, the first thing they're going to think is, now here's a race of leaders. This is a race of leaders. And I'd rather them be saying that than a bunch of schmucks who were too chicken to defend themselves and are still enslaved. I don't ever want to go there. And those who aren't awake, they're still stuck in their fears. They are. They're still stuck in their fears, and they're going to have to confront those. They are. They're going to have to confront those when the old system is literally dismantled. Yep. Which is occurring as we speak. Said so. They're going to have their dark night of the soul. All we can do is be here for them and say everything's going to be okay. You're going to survive this, and let them know what's waiting for them on the other side when they get over themselves, okay? He says, guys, this is so good. He says, this is so powerful. What's happening here? It really is. I'm so encouraged. But we're going to see some shit here in the next few months. We are. And some of it's not going to be pretty. But all we can do for those of who are stuck in victimhood is pray for them and see them in the highest light. See them empowered. See them empowered. Assist. Offer a hand. But don't see them as victims. See them empowered. That's what we have to do, is get them from here to here. Is that from here to here? Says, and I don't know what that looks like because everyone is different. Said some you can say something to, some you can have a conversation with, some you can share knowledge and wisdom and your personal experience, and they will get it. They will relate to it, and they will begin to make those changes within. Others are absolutely tone deaf. He says, so you move on to the next one. Maybe somebody else will speak their tone. You can lead a horse to water. Says that's all you can do. Maybe someone else behind you will get them to drink. We'll get the horse to drink. But anyway, we try. Says we understand. We're sharing this reality with them as well. Now people are experiencing the shift. They're seeing the difference between the two worlds as the frequencies are occurring. Two worlds are beginning to come apart. That doesn't mean this is going to become a separate reality. We're still on one timeline. Says what it means is this: those that don't break away will dissolve, leave physicality, and go back to source and get reset and start over. And when they choose to come into another civilization or to incarnate or take physical form, they will have the knowledge of this experience, but they will not have the power from it because they chose not to step into their own. They will have to choose some different type of reality or an experience in order to learn to take back their personal power. This will include the regressives, those that have soul, okay? Source isn't going to take itself out. It's never going to happen. But a good smacking will probably occur, like wake the fuck up. But they will have to come back into an experience where they take back their personal power. Those of us that are doing it that are standing in it, that are awakening to it now, we're going to be the teachers. We're not going to have to go through these steps again, and we'll jump very quickly into other realms. Oh, I'm so excited. Are you ready? Are you guys ready to be teachers? I hope so, because we're awesome, right? So, there's all kinds of talk about the banking system. It says, I'm not quite sure what to do. If you have silver, you should be okay. If you have cash, you should be okay. I don't know what's appropriate. I don't know for how long. Nobody really knows. There are a lot of people who are talking like they know. I don't think anybody knows except those that are very, very at the top about how this is all going to play out. And I say that, yeah, like I've said that before. Like, none of us are fully awake yet. No one in this world knows what the hell's going to happen. We just don't. No one knows until it happens, right? Till you go through that experience. Says, because this is the last move on the chessboard. It is. Says, and you're not going to give your move away until you make your move, and then everybody watching the game knows what the move is. Whether they know what the dark side knows, what the move is or not, still don't give it away. You just don't. It's never prudent unless you're arrogant and egotistical, and that's not what the white hats are about. That's not what the alliance is about. It says they're looking at this as for the benefit of all, even the shitheads. If you do things right, everyone has an opportunity to spin out of it, to come out of it and empower themselves and to contribute. Those beings that have no soul, that are AI constructed, they're not going to be able to hide. They're not going to be able to hide. They're going to experience an ending. There will be and are a significant amount of councils, not only in our galaxy, but in other galaxies, that have already begun the conversation about created AI physical forms. And where that's going to go, I'm not sure, but I would venture to say that there will not be a creation of this scenario where the AI physical forms have actually threatened the life of soul beings. I don't ever see that recreating itself, okay? It reminds me of Battlestar Galactica, right? Where we made the robots, the Cylons, and they basically started looking like real humans, and then they took us out. I love that show. Okay, now we get into questions. Let's see. The chasm, okay, first question. The chasm between those awakening and the normies still seems quite vast. I sense there must be some event large enough to quickly raise the vibration to gain enough momentum to get this thing done. Otherwise, this could take years at the rate we've been going. Do you see that event happening? If so, what's your best theory of how? And Alex's answer to that was, I'm not sure the chasm is as big as you think. I think there are a lot of people who are aware, they just simply don't know what to do, or they simply have no one to talk to about it because they don't want to be labeled a crazy or a conspiracy theorist. In fact, I got a new name, he says the other day, Conspiracy Claus. And he laughed and he says, I guess because I look like Santa Claus. But I'm Conspiracy Claus now. He says, I wear the lapel proudly at this point of the game. He says, I think it may not be as big as we might think. However, all you have to do is remember this. All those things with soul, with spirit, never die. He says they change physical form, they change location, but they're constant, they're forever. So those that don't make that transition here either choose not to or didn't want to for various of reasons. But that doesn't mean they're gone, like forever. The AI program stuff, the AI life forms that have no soul, they're done. They're going to be done. And I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but they're going to be done. So the galaxy is going to have to make a decision, especially those in the Orion area. They have a massive shift coming to them. Massive shift. And you know what's interesting is the suppressed amongst them, they're going to be the very first to jump online, and they're going to be ahead of those who were suppressing them, because they're going to be like, yeah, we've been waiting for this. In their own way, they have been calling forth this movement themselves. It says they really have, and it's absolutely coming. So they will be probably leading the way for the rest of those in Orion in making a conscious decision to become free and self-responsible, as opposed to enslaving others and power over. And in so doing, they will realize themselves that they've imprisoned themselves by imprisoning the rest, because they've imprisoned themselves to this position of being over others. They themselves were not growing. They were not evolving in any way, shape, or form. It has nothing to do with riches, never did. Material wealth is not real. It's comfortable, but if you're not evolving here in your heart, in your mind, you've got nothing. You've got nothing. Because you can't take any of that shit with you. What you take with you is your expansion of compassion and awareness and love for all. And the more that they have withheld love, the more shit they have to look at. Okay? It says, and that ultimately is the lesson for everyone, whether it's this galaxy or any of the other trillions that are out there. Okay? It says, by the way, the Webb telescope has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt there was no Big Bang. So because the way the galaxies are spread out, he says, is extremely uniform. And you remember what the A's have said, that all physical matter came out of black holes. Like a birth canal, right? Like a birth canal. Like it's birthing. Black holes birth matter into the new world. We know black holes are everywhere. They also said there's 100 trillion galaxies in our holograph, our Vidya, says, which is now 12 dimensions. But they were referring to it at the time. It says, also, one more thing I wanted to mention before we go on to the next question. There's talk about 12D beings here on Earth, and some people have a hard time wrapping their head around that. If you look outside the third dimension, time is not linear. It's not linear. Then when you move into other frequency realms, dimensions, planes of existence, there are opportunities to understand that past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously, and understand with our very, very, very limited knowledge about physics, quantum physics, and planes of existence, that we simply couldn't wrap our head around that. But eventually you will. It is not a stretch to understand that some 12D beings could be incarnated here or have walked in by agreement. It's not unrealistic. I mean, with God, all things are possible. So you got to keep that in mind, okay? Next question. Oh, I gotta get coffee. You like my necklace? Isn't that cool? It's a butterfly. You probably can't see it because of light, but it's got planets on it. You can't see it. It's got planets on it and moons and like meteors. It's really cool. It's all inlaid stone. I think I've showed these to you guys before. If you flip it over, it has another pattern, and it's like Native American sort of pattern. I can't see that in the light, but So it's got two sides, and I love it. I love these. You can find them. I found these on eBay years ago, and you can find all kinds of inlaid stone jewelry. But I loved the butterfly because that's my cosmic metamorphosis channel, right? Like we're all butterflies, we're all caterpillars in this cocoon, and once we break free, we're going to be these beautiful, beautiful butterflies. So I love that. Okay, so next question. Does the recent publication of Elena Danan's book, The Cedars, signify that the deep state is essentially defeated because she always said she would have to wait until it was safe? And his answer was, well, I would address that question back to you and say, what do you think? For you to ask that question, you probably already know the answer. And the timing of the book is exactly the right timing of the book. The timing of the knowledge, the timing of the events that are occurring now and are fast coming towards us. Those are absolutely fitted for the times. You waking up now and asking these questions into your own expansion of awareness. And he kind of laughs and he says, guys, it's all good. Says it really is all good. You're all coming along nicely. He says, you really are. You may not know it. You may not believe it. You may still be feeling some frustration, but you're all coming along nicely. You're exactly where you need to be. Just be patient with yourselves and love yourself. And if you're frustrated with yourself, try a little bit more compassion. There's no reason to be frustrated. Letting go of old tapes and old programs is not easy. It's not. Be patient with yourself, but understand that what you're doing, that's why you're frustrated. You're letting it go. If you weren't even aware of it, you wouldn't be frustrated with it if you weren't letting it go, if you weren't questioning it. He said, so it's good. He says, we're all in different places. Every day is the first day of school here on earth. It really is. And just be mindful of that. We're all in different grades. I love this. He says, some of us are still using crayons. Said some don't know how to hold the crayons. Said some are finger painting and others are painting masterpieces. He says, like the cedars. So you're all doing great. You're all doing great. And he chuckles and he says, just remember that, okay? You get up in the morning and your eyes are swollen and you hurt here and you hurt there. He says, just remember you're doing great. It's like the analogy of like you're in this race and you're running and you're running and you're running and you're running and you've run for so long and your like head is going, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I'm gonna quit. I'm just gonna drop to the floor and I'm done. Like I'm just done. But yet your higher self, that little voice inside your head is like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you kind of come out of your body and you're just, your body's moving like automatically. It's on autopilot. And you just finish that crossing line and you made it and you made it. That's what I'm thinking of. It's like we're in this race and we're just running. And we're like, some days we're just like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I just want to give up. I just want to go home. I don't want to deal with it. And then you have that little voice that's just like, no, no, you're not. You're a warrior. You came here to change this. So you're going to keep going. You're going to get up and you're going to keep going and you're going to keep going. And soon enough, like it will be wonderful for you. It's coming. So next question. I've heard that some organizations like the UN have been turned by the white hats to be a source of good. What do you think about that? And Alex says, I think there are some genuine white hats there. I think the others are absolutely scared shitless because they're playing a role and they realize that when everything changes, they're going to have to answer for their betrayal of humanity. That's what I think. He says, unless they cut a deal, but there's no more deals. There are no more deals. If they haven't cut one, there's no more deals, but they're going to be watched and monitored. And the minute they go back to their old ways, out you go. They're done with this shit. We're done with this shit. He says, we are so much better than this. And they're not. So that's what I think. I think a lot of them are in there. A lot of them in there are, a majority in there are scared shitless because they know what's happened to the rest of them. Their bosses, the ones they answer to, the ones who were blackmailing them. He says they're cooked, they're done. But there are some genuine white hats, people who went into the UN with all the right intentions. He says, to help, to solve issues, to protect humanity, to make the world a better place, and who didn't sell out. And they, of course, will move to the top. If that organization continues to exist, we'll have to see. Next question was, could you speak about the Native American tribes you're associated with and how they are handling the situation happening in this country? Love your walking stick. Did you make it? He said, yes, I did. He says, that walking stick's been everywhere. And he laughs. Currently, I'm not associated with any groups right now. He says, the only tribe I'm associated with or tribes are you guys and my bunch of Indians, which I guess is his kids. And he laughs. But at the moment, I'm not associated with any. I sort of lost track of that years ago. Next question. If we are creator beings and can alter our reality by creating as we wish, how the hell did we end up with these shitbird aliens enslaving us when most of the population don't even believe in them? And he laughs and he says, that is a 5-hour talk just by itself. Just because, our ancestors knew about the extraterrestrials. They walk among us. There was reciprocal communications. It's in many of the Arabic books no one wants to pay attention to, or they just call it fairy tales or myths, and it's not. The Indian nation of India, they know about the extraterrestrials. The Chaldeans wrote about extraterrestrials. The Egyptians wrote about extraterrestrials. I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, says, in all of the indigenous cultures around the world who weren't communicating with each other talk about the reptilian ETs and others. So they're known. They've known. It's just that at some point, about 4,000 years ago, they decided we were going to forget about our history. So they rewrote history for us to turn us into a bunch of idiots. So we could not connect with our past. And that's a huge part of it, is the rewriting of history. And then what they did was begin to teach us a completely different reality than what was real. They brought us slowly into the matrix, which turned us all into zombies and slaves. That's the Cliff Notes version, he says, of it. But he says, Dr. Sala, Elena, many, many people have written incredible books about just that question, that address just that question. The information is out there, and maybe somebody here in the chat can suggest more authors for people to look this up. Maybe start with some first grade stuff. The Gods of Eden by William Bramley is an excellent start. The Book of Enoch is an excellent start. See, so these are my books, okay? So, of course, Our Universal Journey, great, great information. Great information by George Kavasilis. And then we have Message for the Tribe of Many Colors by Little Grandmother, Keisha Crowther. Great book. Great information. That's more like on the Native American line. shamans. She's just shaman. Yeah, so I have the Gods of Eden. I started reading it. I just don't have time working anymore, but I have it. And of course, like these, I got lots of information out of this, like Curiel, The Great Shift by Fred Sterling. I've got Curiel, The Lemurian Legacy for the Great Shift. Like this is great. Talks about Lemuria in here. Lots of really good information that I resonated with. And then he's also got Guide to the Unseen Self, which is a really interesting book and basically goes through, says like, what is a light worker? Why light workers are amassing the collective consciousness, the first 9 months, your birth name, your birth number, gender and blueprint, veils of the ego, premature infants, adopted children, multiple births, multiple personalities, the absent father, raising children, shift babies. I mean, there's all kinds of information in here. It's amazing. It's just amazing, some of that. And then of course, the Gaia Project 2012. This is great on how he explains how everything started with the Earth and how the frequencies started and how the negative frequencies came in and we had to densify down into material bodies. So this is very good information. I can't pronounce the author. He's Korean, so it's Young Jang. So HWEEYONG and then JANG. So a guide to the profound transformation of and consciousness shift. And then if you have kids, this is a great one by Sherry Divband. I just read, I haven't read it all yet, but Divinely Guided. A guide for teens, parents, and young adults to become spiritually centered in an ever-changing world. So this is great information too. I have back here, I have Zachariah Sitchin, 12th Planet, The End of Days. I have Carrie Cassidy, Rebel Jean. I have Elena's book, A Gift from the Stars. I have The Lost Book of Inky, and I have David Icke's Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. So, and I have a few other ones, and I have like a lot of native ones, a lot of shaman ones, Earth Magic. I have one of those. And there's one about the rainbow dance or something like that. But so a lot of those, like just really good books to read to get more information on that. Anyway, okay, and then it says there's so many things out there where you can research this and get it and read it yourself, underline and highlight, he says. And when you do that research yourself, you don't forget it. And then you can share that knowledge with others as they approach you and they say, well, how do you know about that stuff? And you can share it instead of saying, oh, that guy with the beard, that conspiracy guy. Instead of just saying that, you will come from a place of knowing yourself. And that will mean a lot more to them instead of saying that crazy guy on the internet. He says, believe me, I've heard it all. Next question. It is said that when we are fully connected to Source and all that is, we will be connected again to all knowledge. Why then would the Andromedans have to go to school for 150 Earth years if they are connected to all knowledge? Do they need to remember it first? Is learning equal to remembering? And Alex says that is an excellent question. If everyone has all knowledge, literally all knowledge of everything, what would be the point of having any physical experience? Obviously, that statement isn't true. You may have knowledge about yourself, but that does not mean you'd have knowledge in all dimensions, all creation, this universe, and all others. That has not ever been implied. Obviously, knowledge is associated with physical evolution. and physical experience. Now, the A's know everything there is to know about their level and below. They are still learning about 6th and 7th because they see themselves evolving to that level. Some of their people have already incarnated into the next dimensional level. It's a school. He says, we're all in school. And if we knew it all, had it all, what would be the point in doing any of this? And isn't that true? It's very true. Just because we were bored, he says, God, I hope that's not the reason. He said, so you're stuck in school. You're still going to school. You're going to go to college after this, and you're going to get your degree. Then you're going to go to grad school, and you're going to get your degree. You're going to go to galactic school, and then you're going to get your degree. And then you're going to go to dimensional school and get your degree. He says, and I don't know where you go after that. Oh my God, seriously. I want out of school. Like, I'm done with school. I don't want to do it anymore. He says, guys, thank you for being here. I guess I will see you on the 7th of October. I will be in Orlando at the big conference the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. It will be the last time I will do any public speaking. Not webinars. He's still doing webinars. He says, I'm very content being home and doing this from my residence. My birth sign is Cancer. I'm very comfortable staying close and being home. He says, I mean, I like to travel, but it is what it is, okay? He says, if anything happens, I will do a WhatsApp to James or put something up on Telegram. He says, well, anyway, I'll do a video or a chat and get it out there to you and let you know what's going on. Because any moment this thing is going to unwind. And just remember, be the observer. Okay? Be mindful where you put your energy. This is the time to be really mindful of that and to really focus on what you want, because that's what's coming behind all of this garbage. Okay? He says, I love you. God bless you. Thank you all. You're the best that there is, every single one of you. I am so proud of all of you, even those whom I have not met. Thank you for being here now. And this gets me teary-eyed. Thank you for being here at this time on this planet. You're truly Knights of Terra, and I couldn't be more proud of you. We'll see you soon. So I thought that was a great ending. So there are a few other questions. Like I said, I don't always do them all because a lot of them are kind of the same repetition. Anyway, I want to put new information out there. Anyway, hopefully you guys liked that. I thought it was a great one. If you liked it, hit the like button, share this with people you think might like the information. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you so much. I think I have one more week on YouTube that I can't post anything, so this will be going on BitChute. So thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. Stay positive. I know it's hard. It's going to be rough and bumpy, but it's very exciting at the same time. So, so say we all. So say we all. I love all of you. I want to give you all a great big hug. Thank you so much for watching. And we will see you next time. Okay?